I'm Sung. I am the mother of Kai. I came to the U.S. when I was almost 8 years old, so my family settled in Los Angeles. I am a clinical research coordinator. I've been married for almost 30 years to my high school sweetheart. We have 2 children, Kai and my son.
I'm Kai, and I am 16, almost 17, and I consider myself a non-binary trans-masculine person. I enjoy writing, playing music, school stuff, and learning is cool. Oh, and drawing. Drawing is great. Love drawing. I remember coming out to her, for the first time coming out to her, really, in the car, and then it was like really emotional, and then we came back home, and then I like drew out the gender spectrum, kind of, even though it's like so huge. I drew out the binaries as like male and female, and then I was like, there's a middle, but the middle is like non-binary, and then I was like, I'm more on this side of the gender spectrum, not on the female side, more on the male side. And I feel like drawing the picture out for her really made her like understand more.
Oh yeah, that was like a big, that was very impressive. This whole spectrum thing I was not aware of, but it makes so much sense. I can totally see like the spectrum thing where you have, blends of both, because, Kai's had this fluidity. I don't know if it's fluid, but definitely not girly. Oh my gosh. I took him to ballet class. The look on his face in that class, it's just so comical. I knew then, it's like, no, this is not for Kai at all. But like softball, he took to t-ball. T-ball used to start with t-ball. It was so natural and just loved it. What does that mean if you're not all the way over there? I don't understand.
And then I had to like educate her like on a lot of.
He's still educating me.
I'm still educating her because like the community is so vast and there's so many different things to learn, but like once you get the kind of gist of it, you kind of are able to be more accepting of different things. In my opinion, that's what I think. Being queer was really weird at first because I felt so isolated and alone, kind of sad, but also kind of funny. Throughout my high school career, I've always been like exploring my identity. I remember because I'm always sitting at this one table with a bunch of people, and I sit with only girls, so it's kind of weird because I don't identify as a woman. So like they're like talking about like boys and like, oh yeah, whatever, and like I love boys and everyone's so great. It was kind of weird to hear because before everyone started like outwardly showing that they were straight, I was like, maybe some people around me aren't straight, and maybe I'm not alone in this queer surrounding of my school. But then I was like, wow, everyone's straight. I'm the only queer. I'm the only trans person. This sucks. And I feel so alone and annoyed. You opened up the idea of being accepted more because you're one of the most open-armed Christians.
Were you surprised by when you came out to me?
It's frightening. It's probably the most frightening thing a person of that community will ever face. Yeah, everyone's afraid that you're going to face rejection. Of course, I didn't feel you're going to kick me out because you're not that kind of person. But I definitely was afraid that you were just going to reject the fact.
I can't imagine how parents would reject their own children.
I think, it was this year, junior year of high school, when I started like coming out, finally coming to terms with my identity and my sexuality. I decided to attend our Gay Straight Alliance at school, where we are there, but we don't like ever really talk about our own identities. Like we are educated about other people's like sexual orientations, but we're never like speaking about our own. I think I'm one of the only people who started like speaking about me being trans, because I feel like people need to know that there are trans people on this campus. Caitlyn Jenner is not the only representation, and GSA was actually how I met API equality thing. I went to LA Zine Fest, and I was, for some random reason, I had no idea I was literally boothing with API, and it was very surprising, and like, what the heck, I had no idea I was with this group selling zines, and also talking about being very isolated in Arcadia High, because literally everyone is Asian, and I feel like growing up around in an Asian community made it very difficult to come out, because, how Asians are always like saying like bring honor to your family and don't shame them because you're queer and like all these other things and like get good grades. And because I wasn't typically the typical Asian into my studies, I'm more into the arts and I'm more into like other things. And I'm also queer, so I think that played a big part of shaping myself, because now that I felt so isolated, I feel like I should more speak out of my identity now that I am more comfortable in myself, and more educate other people and say like there are Asians that are not straight and not cis. Generally in the SGV area, it's really closed off. I feel like they try to avoid the subject of gender and sexuality because of the Asian culture. They try to close off everything that's different, kind of, and not typical.
There are a lot of immigrant churches who come in, establish themselves in the San Gabriel Valley. The English speakers, we're like a small section of this immigrant church. And what we've been finding out is we've realized that as our kids get older, not all of them are marrying or, befriending or having relationships with other Asian people. So we don't want our children to feel weird about coming back or don't feel comfortable coming back. That need was not being filled in the San Gabriel Valley. If you look around, there are very few churches who are established as an all English-speaking, predominantly Asian American church.
In the previous church, I had a lot of problems because the church was so rigid. So I couldn't really come out necessarily. So I just kind of hid my sexuality and hid my identity. So it was really hard for me when Christians are supposed to be this huge accepting community who accept anyone and love everyone, because that's what the Bible tells everyone to do. Yet I felt so uncared for because I was so afraid.
It would have been very difficult for Kai to come out in the church where we were previously, very Asian, very conservative.
And there was this one instance where my mom told me that one of the churchgoers came up to her and said oh, did you know that your daughter was dressing like a boy? And then my mom told me that, and my mom was like,
I was like, yeah.
And it's it's none of her business, and I felt like if I came out, it would have been everyone's business.
Not with openness, not with even curiosity. It's hard enough to come out and figure out and realize what it means to be transgender, but for Kai to also have to deal with pressure. So this church plant, the timing was just amazing. And of course, I never in my dreams thought my child would be transgender. And it's opened up a whole new world for me. So I would hope that, people would be more open, to kind of, there's this population of people, what are they about? But that's not human nature. Human nature is to be afraid and hate things that they don't know.
I would think I would want to see in the future would be gender neutral bathrooms. But it's just trans people and queer people just want to feel safe in their own communities. But the people who are not a part of the community not necessarily don't want to see it, it's just that they don't care. And not caring is equivalent to not doing anything.
Yes. That is true.
And not caring is basically the same thing as saying just pushing us away. If trans people and queer people don't have voices, people who do have privilege should voice their opinions. Then how else are we going to be heard besides a person? Which I think is very stupid, because trans people should have their own voice instead of going through another person.
You need allies, you need supporters. And so my hope for the future is for people of the LGBTQ community have support to come out and speak up so they don't have to live denying themselves. And I hope that enough light is shed that people who are not of that community pay attention. This isn't something that can be denied or just ignored. And I hope that people will come with an open heart, with an open mind, learn and educate yourself before you make judgment, and just cast people aside.
Yeah, and people who can't say I didn't know, because it's so in the media now. You're saying, oh, I didn't know that this happened, but it's yeah, you do. It's you need to open your eyes to other problems besides your own. These people are being persecuted, basically. They're being hurt. With the new
they're being killed.
The new bill, the anti-trans bill. It's people don't see the effects of the bill because they're not trans.
I would hope that you would. People would open up their minds and learn about it. That's to educate themselves. The fact that, this group is just being denied basic human rights to be able to go to the bathroom where they feel comfortable. It's just like a basic thing that people who are not of that community, they just take for granted.
I feel like the ideal future, if I can put it in one word, is safety.
That's what I fear for Kai. Cases of people being hurt and just turn aside. We just can't. As human beings, we just can't.